Hey folks, well I'm out in the shop doing a little bit of work on some snowmobile stuff. I'm working on trying to get this old Jag. It's a 3000 FC, which stands for fan cooled. You won't be able to see, I don't know, maybe you can see or not, but it's a 1980 model. It was built in April of '79. It's a 340 fan cooled, like I mentioned. But what's missing? There's no carb. This model came with a Mikuni butterfly carb, and it was messed up. There was some parts actually missing, and they're not used very often. So I'm swapping it out, or trying to swap it out. That's why it's off right now. And what I have to put in its place is from an slightly older Arctic Cat, still a Mikuni carb. Let me just turn the light on up here so you can see a little bit better. There we go. It's a flat slide, or well, I guess yeah, kind of a flat slide. It's a round slide carb. You can see right there some goop that I think leaked out of it, some old fuel. But I had this on there before. I couldn't get it to run, but I think what needs to be done is all the fuel lines and so on need to be replaced. And I also did some looking online, and a few of the folks there was one fellow that was asking him the same kind of idea. He's got a butterfly carb and he needs to get rid of it, and someone suggested a 32 millimeter round slide carb, and I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if this is a 32 or 34. I could measure it up, I guess, and see, but it can also look based on, it says a 3204 is that part number on there, so I think I can look that up, but I'm pretty sure it's probably a 34 mil carb. So my plan this evening is to tear it down, check what jetting is in there, because it was recommended to start out with a 300 jet. And I can't remember, I'll have to look it up, but I can't remember what the pilot jet was. But I figure since I'm tearing it down, I'll show you the inner guts of one of these. So I'll get you on the tripod and we'll get to work. Alright, I got a few of the tools that I need to do this. These things are pretty straightforward to tear apart. There's not that many parts to it. One of the parts that's already off is, they call it choke assembly. Most people call it a choke assembly. Went into this hole. It's actually not a true choke, it's an enrichment circuit. It allows more fuel in. It doesn't choke off the air in the sense that a regular choke does. But still referred to a choke most of the times. So the first step is, or in my situation, I'm going to take this top off. Now normally there's a little clip right here which holds this from coming off, but it's missing. I'm sure I have one somewhere. And when you pull this off, it's a fine thread, so it's quite a few turns. Normally I would take this off as well, but I need to get a new throttle cable as well because I'm converting it. And there's your slide. This is what controls the airflow in and out of the engine. It blocks off the hole. Now what it's got this cutout, which if I'm not mistaken is there in order to allow a little bit of air through in order for the idle to be able to idle. So now to get this needle out, there's a little, you just pull the spring back, and there's a plate which flops out of the way. That's what holds the needle in. And come on, out comes the needle. It's pretty gummed up. It's probably a good thing I'm taking this apart. There's a lot of green stuff on it, old fuel. Now this needle, it's got a clip on the top. I don't know if you can see, it's also got grooves in it, so you can move this needle up and down, up and down, so that it sits higher or lower in the orifice down in there, which you can't really see at the moment. And that needle actually controls your mid-throttle fuel flow, because it pokes in and out of the main jet. So if you don't have that needle set properly, or if it's the wrong taper, it can give you a bog on your off idle response, that sort of thing. So a lot of times if your engine's running a little too lean in the mid-range or even on the top end, you can take this clip off, move it down a notch or two, which lifts the needle further up in that bore, and it'll allow more fuel through. Now, next step is take this screw out. This is just for idle. It's just to set your idle. All it does, come on, as this slide sits in here, and it pushes up against this ramp, and it pushes this slide valve up and down in the bore to help adjust your idle. That's all it's there for. Oh, look at that nasty green old fuel coming out of there. It's definitely in need of a replace or a cleaning. Next, take off the float bowl. That's where most of the parts are that you're going to be concerned with. 4 screws. I'm trying to do this in such a way I don't block the camera view. You can see I work on a towel. It helps kind of absorb any of the fluids that come out, and also keeps parts from falling on the floor and disappearing. And you're probably going to see a bunch of fuel come out of here. I should have actually drained the float bowl by taking this plug out, but whatever. Make a mess, clean it up later. So now usually what I do is I'll just give this a few wraps, because I'm not planning on replacing gaskets unless I have to. By doing this, you can usually get it off without tearing the gasket. You don't want to hit it too hard though, because it might damage just damage the float bowl. It's just cast aluminum. Come on, there she comes. She's stuck in there. Now there's a plate in there, because it's a gasket and a metal plate. There we go. One side, the other side. Now look at all that yellowness in there. That's all rotten old fuel. There's even some crud in the bottom. So there you go. Now there's your floats, and that acts upon this lever, which opens and closes your needle and seat assembly, which allows fuel from the float bowl up into the carb to make sure, from the fuel line into the float bowl to set your proper fuel level. If it's too low, you'll starve for fuel. If it's too high, there's too much fuel, and it can cause issues with flooding. Your manual will usually tell you what that float needs to be set to. So you just pull that pin, there's nothing holding it in. The bowl actually traps it in between here. Take this out. You can see how there's this little tang here. You bend that to set your float level. Off comes the metal thing. And there's another gasket in here, which I'm just going to leave in place. I think what this is there for is just to help with keep the fuel from sloshing. I'm not too sure. Some other Mikunis I've taken apart don't have that metal part. Tip that out. There's your needle. It's got a little rubber tip on it. You gotta watch that tip. Rebuild kits will come with a new needle. If there's any sort of groove in there, it needs to be replaced. This one looks like it's in pretty good shape. Then the next is your main. I'm going to take out the main jet. Normally I would use a proper, you know what, I'm going to make sure to not wreck it. See if I have a nut driver the right size here. I'm not sure what size it is. So just use a pliers or risk damaging that jet. On investigation, it looks like it's got a 350 in it, so it's actually a little big for the application. That one won't work. Maybe I don't have enough driver the right size, unless there's one in this set. Quarter, I think it's a quarter. Yep, 1/4 inch. Pop that out. Pretty gummed up. Wasn't quite 1/4 inch. It'll be metric because it's a Mikuni carb made in Japan. So that's that. This is what you use to set if your engine's running too lean on the top. This only really affects your wide open throttle. You're coming on the main jet. Everything else goes through the pilot jet, Matt, for the most part, in the idle circuit. So this is what determines your wide open fuel mixture. If it's too lean, you're going to wreck your engine. If it's too rich, you're going to not run at optimum fuel ratio. Now, I'm trying to remember where the pilot jet is. I'll show you another thing. This is your air screw. I think it's an air bleed screw. Lets air in for your idle circuit. I should have counted how many turns, but I'll look all that up after. And then you can take this out, and I'm certain, can't remember where the pilot jet is. Oh, sorry, I do know where it is. The pilot jet is way down in here. You need a small screwdriver, pull it out. There it is. Just a little jet. Come on, focus camera. Little jet with a bunch of holes in it, and I think it's this hole on the end that changes now. I don't even. This is a number 25, which I think might have been the right one. So I may have to go a little leaner on the main jet. And the last thing you can take out while you're cleaning is the seat assembly. Let's see what I think it's going to be. This guy right here. Nope, one down. I'll go get the metric size. Just give me a second while I hit the toolbox. Alright, found the right tool. Turn that a little bit more so you can see. It's a 10 mil socket. This is another thing that can get damaged if the seat assembly gets a groove in it, cause a leak, sort of thing. When your engine sits, the carb may flood because it doesn't shut off the flow of fuel. That's why it's always important to turn your fuel valve off, so if you have a leaky seat, you don't have to worry about it. And there you have it. It's all disassembled. Now, what you normally do, or what I should say I do, is get yourself some carb cleaner. I use John Deere carb and choke cleaner, and give it a good old hosing out, and blow it all off. Scrub out any crap with a soft brush. I'm going to take this off on the bottom. This is why you should always store your carbs without fuel, or at least use fuel stabilizer so it doesn't turn to varnish. Sorry about that, I had to go give the cat some crappies up on the bench, wrecking some stuff. So as I was saying, I used the carbon choke cleaner from the John Deere dealership just because it's actually a pretty good price. So what you do is hose everything down, get in all the orifices, and hose it down good and let it soak for a bit, and then just use some compressed air and lightly blow everything out so it's all clear.